Not so fast for the corrupt Department of Justice to have their case against Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, dismissed in a quid pro quo where Donald Trump is squeezing Eric Adams to get him to play ball in immigration in return for a partial dismissal of his indictment. Judge Ho wants another side to the story, doesn't want to just hear from Emile Bove, Donald Trump's former criminal lawyer, and now number 2 or number 3 in the Department of Justice. So he's appointed a former Solicitor General of the United States, Paul Clement. Yes, that Paul Clement, the one that's an arch conservative, has now been appointed by a Democratic judge appointed by Biden in order to argue the other side. Why do Democrats and Democratic judges have to appoint arch right-wing conservative special counsels and other things when they want to show that they're being fair and impartial? When are we going to start playing by the rules? I'm Michael Popok. You're on MeidasTouch and Legal AF. Let's jump to it. We had a hearing a couple of days ago in which a lot of fair-minded people, former prosecutors and the like, urged Dale Ho, the judge in New York, not to dismiss the case against Eric Adams based on a 9-page letter that the acting interim U.S. attorney for Manhattan, Danielle Sassoon, wrote, in which she said it is an unethical, borderline a crime, to dismiss this case, to try to force an elected official to do your bidding in return for the dismissal of his indictment. That unholy alliance, that quid pro quo, is the reason that she resigned, even though she's right-wing Federalist Society person and a shining star for the Republicans. She has moral conviction. Then they got a lawyer in the office, an older lawyer in the office, to try to save the reputations and the careers of other assistant U.S. attorneys. Ed Sullivan, he signed the motion, but it wasn't argued by Ed Sullivan. Emile Bove from Washington showed up in Dale Ho's courtroom a couple of days ago to argue for the dismissal of the indictment, or the nolle pros, we call it, of the indictment. Except he was the only one there, and nobody was arguing the other side, right? So you had this unholy group of Alex Spiro, who represents Mayor Adams, who's friends with Emile Bove, and who's also the lawyer for Elon Musk, in court, standing shoulder to shoulder with the government to argue that it needed to be dismissed for public service because they're not going to get Eric Adams focused on immigration if he's got the indictment hanging over his head. Right? The guy should go to jail. I mean, Michelle Sassoon put in her letter of resignation very noisily. Not only does she not agree with the dismissal of the indictment, she had already asked the Department of Justice under Donald Trump to re-indict, supersedingly indict Eric Adams for lying to the FBI and corrupting evidence. So she resigned. So now what? Bunch of former prosecutors stepped forward, including Mark Pomerantz and Carrie Dunn. They were in the Manhattan DA's office when they noisily resigned because Alvin Bragg would go after Donald Trump. The same group got together and told Judge Ho, you got to appoint somebody to argue the other side. I went further in my hot takes. I said the judge has inherent authority under a case called Young versus Louis Vuitton back in the 1990s to appoint a special prosecutor to continue to prosecute the case. But first, he's going to hear from the other side. Now, here's the bad part of the hot take. He picks Paul Clement. Now, Paul Clement was appointed by George Bush to be the Solicitor General of the United States and served in that role as the Solicitor General of the United States from 2004 to 2008. He was also the acting Attorney General of the United States at one point, which sounds good on paper. He has his own firm. Now, he left the prior firm, Kirkland and Ellis, because they didn't want him to continue to take pro-Second Amendment against gun regulation cases any longer. So he left and he formed his own firm. He is an arch right-wing conservative. I wouldn't call him MAGA, but he is Federalist to the core. He's been on the wrong or hum side of every issue he's ever argued when he was the Solicitor General. He was against gun control and controlling the Second Amendment. He was against same-sex marriages. He was against the Obamacare Affordable Care Act. He defended George Bush's use of terrorism, waterboarding, and the like. That Paul Clement. When we rescued our dog Lily 3 years ago, we made her a silent promise. We would find her the healthiest dog food we could to make her life better than we found her. And of course, with a baby daughter, my wife and I needed something that was easy to store and serve for the human side of the promise. Fortunately, I found our next sponsor even before they were a sponsor, Sundays. Sundays is fresh dog food made from a short list of human-grade ingredients. Sundays contains 90% meat, 10% superfoods, and 0% synthetic nutrients or artificial ingredients. As soon as we started using Sundays and stopped using some other fresh ingredient brands requiring refrigeration, we experienced noticeable health improvements in our pup, including softer fur, fresher breath, better poops, and more energy after switching to Sundays. Knowing that we were giving Lily the best possible life of great nutrition after what she went through before finding her forever home gives us a warm feeling inside. Unlike other fresh dog foods, Sundays does not require refrigeration or preparation because of their air drying process. Just pour and serve. When you start a Sundays subscription, you'll automatically get 20% off and free shipping on every reorder. Cancel or pause your subscription anytime with their 100% satisfaction guarantee. Every order ships right to your door, so you'll never worry about running out of dog food again. And the ease of storage is one of the main reasons we switched to Sundays. Because it's air dried, Sundays bags are lighter than others and easy to store in a pantry, and does not require like 2 tons of ice boxes and freezers, and the all-natural ingredients are lapped up by our dog in record time. That's the best vote of confidence ever. The new year is not only the perfect time for us humans to make healthy changes, but for your pup as well. Get 40% off a 2-week trial of Sundays. Go to sundaysfordogs.com/legalaf or use code legalaf at checkout. This reminds me of Merrick Garland, the Biden Attorney General, bent over backwards when he needed to appoint a special prosecutor against Joe Biden about the handling of classified documents, and he picked Robert Hur, a right-wing federalist conservative. Why? Just pick somebody who's unassailable but is playing on the right team. Okay? I am tired. I've said this before. Okay? We have to go to the lengths and depths of our opponents. I'm not saying doing anything unethical, but there are plenty of Democrats who served as Solicitor Generals, if that's what you wanted, to check the box. You know? It looks like Dale Ho, who had worked for the ACLU, who had worked for the NAACP, is bending over backwards to be so deferential and independent that he's actually undermining his own position. Let me predict it now. Paul Clement, arch conservative, MAGA defender, is not going to find that it's inappropriate to dismiss the indictment against Eric Adams. I'll come back here and I'll tell you I was shocked if it happens. And then what? I get that he needs an advocate on the other side, but this is not the one that anybody wanted, Judge Ho. Pick the right special counsel to advise you and goes further. This is my urging component of the hot take. Go further and appoint a special counsel to prosecute the case against Eric Adams. Did you read the 9-page letter from Diane Sassoon on the way out? And all the reasons and all the evidence against Eric Adams? Don't let this dirty deal that stinks to high heaven, continue to undermine our and the public's respect for the judiciary and for our criminal justice system. You have a shot here. I don't want to say he blew it because I don't want to be that harsh on him, but let me just put it this way. Paul Clement would not be the guy that I would pick to do the other side of the argument. It's like you got two. Who's the other side? It's like same side. So now I got Alex Spiro, the lawyer, Emile Bove for the corrupt Department of Justice, and Paul Clement, who's the darling of the conservative and right-wing alt-right movement, all arguing, what, different positions? No, the same positions. What this points to is not what happens to the rise and fall of Mayor Adams in New York, which most people in America don't care about. This has to do to the existential threat to the Department of Justice and what it appears to stand for in front of the American people, which is very little. Yeah, which is very little. The Department of Justice is corrupt, led by Pam Bondi. No, forget that. Led by Donald Trump. That's who's leading all of his agencies in his unified, unitary presidential model. Yeah. How do we like that? Polling says we hate it. Well under 50% of America likes what Donald Trump is doing. It's like 43, 44%. His approval rating's in the trash. You know, it's not wildly popular. He's wildly unpopular already. And this is supposed to be the honeymoon period. Judge Ho, I understand why, and I'm glad you exercised under the rules and your inherent authority. I'm glad you exercised and you put somebody in there to advocate. But why Paul Clement? You know, not the right person for the moment. But I'm going to continue to follow it right here on Legal AF and on the MeidasTouch Network. We got the show, the podcast, 5 years in the making, Legal AF. If you didn't know why we called it that, now you do. It's every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and then on audio podcast platforms of your choice. Come on over to Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Hit the free subscribe button there. We're trying to get to 500,000 in the next 2 weeks. We can do it with your help. I really believe that. And that'll be our 6-month birthday. we founded in September, but standing on the shoulders of all the work we've done here together on Legal AF and MeidasTouch. So until my next reporting, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.